Okay, where are we and what are we doing? Right, I've reverted back to the regular build rather than experimental. And we're on my hardcore server character, basically because I haven't played him for a couple of weeks. And I wanted to make sure he's okay. And also, difficulty getting on the server. And jeepers, I don't think there's a damn thing I need. um, I had to redo all my settings because I reverted from one to t'other. Let's clear away some of this space. It looks like I'm as well kitted as ever on this character. Apart from, well, I think he's been alive for, gosh, how long has he been alive? I can't remember the last time this character died. It's weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. So it would appear that we're on top of Tit Hill. Trying something slightly different. I've pushed out my field of view a little bit, and you can let me know whether or not you think that's a good idea, or I'm not quite sure yet myself whether I think it's a good idea. Just clearing some space in the bottom, doing a bit of character maintenance by eating everything whilst I'm here chatting. And yeah, getting onto servers, I was finding myself having to play at unusual times just to get onto a server. For a while I was playing on a locked server, passworded, and that disappeared, so hey, can't play on that, which put me on with the rest of the people playing on the experimental servers, and they are very, very full. But looking at my kit level, actually I'm not quite sure if I like this field of view this far out. So how many people are on the server? Probably not many. It's a French one, but it just had a nice low ping. It was the lowest ping hardcore server I could find. I'm not stuffed yet after drinking all of that lot, which is a little odd. I can see that one. As I say, yes, I'm not quite sure whether I like this wide field of view. Armour games traditionally don't have a field of view slider. So having a field of view slider, and of course we're going back to having zombies that are hardcore mean bastards, aren't we? But then again, I've got the weapon to deal with it. So we'll do a little running on this military. There's no point being this close to a military base and not using it. And of course remind ourselves of the difference between hardcore and, between the regular branch and experimental. Because, yeah, there are some differences. I think experimental will be dropping relatively soon. I think if I remember rightly, we've got uber nasty zombies in this that, not necessarily that they're particularly rock hard, but they respawn remarkably quickly. And not only give you grief, but continue to give you grief long after you would expect them. I think my mouse speed is set too high. Let's have a little look. I've noticed these. I've got a controller plugged in, which I don't normally have, and I've noticed it's got like controller stuff showing up. Controls, yeah, let's turn those down a little bit. Okay, and I'm sorry, yes, I am going to get rid of some of this. Is it into user? No, it's not under user. I can't remember where the slider is now. I've got to go through all of these. Blooming looking at. Grr. Maybe it's not even in this section. Our field of view, there it is. That's a little better. Still looks funny from left to right, but I've got a nice pistol. It's one of those situations where, come on, open the door. Thank you. I'm not actually sure what I'm after. If anything, because I think I've got 2 ammo boxes. You're in... Oh gosh, yeah, I don't need a new one of those. Yeah, I think I've got 2 ammo boxes full of ammunition. Yeah. Full. Almost full. Yeah, it might be a while before I need to pick up any ammo. And of course we're going to go on to the once experimental comes through to being the normal server, you're going to have a situation where you've... Oh, that's another player. I think that was another player. Best thing to do in such situations is to run away. I'll review it when I review the video. Not worth dying, is it? People are going to look at this video and who've never seen my videos and they're going to go, what the bloody hell? Yes, I run away like a scared little girl. Always do. That's how you keep your character alive for a long time. This is a zombie horror survival game. The key for that, as far as I'm concerned, is the survival aspect. And you do not survive by going and say hi to people. Sometimes you've got to say hello. Sometimes they shoot you. I don't want to die. I'm not quite sure why I'm splashing when I'm this far away from the water, but anyway. But yes, this is one of the techniques for how you survive for a very long time in this game. Running away is a perfectly acceptable tactic, as far as I'm concerned. So, this is somewhat dictating where we go, doesn't it? Down to Zelena, or up north? Because ordinarily, from that military base, I would head south to Green Mountain. And at the moment, I'm using cover to get me as far away from there as possible. Don't know if they saw me, but I sure as heck saw them. It's not as if I need anything, is it? Game's running nice and smooth. Seems to be a lot of talk on at the moment of various different social aspects about the ongoing argument between PC gamers and the devs, and particularly the console devs, about this business of locking everybody to 30 frames per second and how refresh rates work. There's a fairly common and ongoing argument on Reddit about such things, but Linus of Linus Tech Tips has recently done something on the subject, a couple of pieces on the subject talking about refresh rate, and I think all of the people who are arguing the case for higher frame rates are sort of missing, you know, for the PC guy's point of view, are sort of missing a trick when it comes to why. And I would sort of like explain what I think about high frame rate and why it's important. The actual frame rate on the screen is less important. The reason why it is important is because it is giving you an indication of how fast the game itself is running. So I know that my game right now is running at 37 frames per second. And it's the game that is running at 37 frames. The fact the image in Dayz, because Dayz built on Armour, and Armour has always been able to accept being perfectly playable at relatively low frame rates. It's the player movement. It's being able to navigate this door and twist and turn. This is why we want a high frame rate. And this is affected by the speed the game is running on the computer. Because obviously, if you think the speed the game is running at dictates the frame rate, the output to the monitor. So if you sliced a second, at the moment 48 frames per second to render this image in front of me. It's how fast, if you chopped a second up into 48 chunks, it's more smooth than if you chopped a second up into 30 chunks or 15 chunks. And if you chopped it into 120 chunks, it would be buttery smooth. It would be beautifully smooth. So frame rate, what is actually being outputted to the monitor, is sort of not what's important in this. What's important is the smoothness of gameplay. Is the fact that every single millimeter of movement of my mouse is appearing on the screen the instant with the graduation and everything. As I move around, it is happening instantly on the screen. If you were chopping this each second up into 30 pieces, given the sensitivity of a mouse, it would be choppy. The whole feel of the game would be choppy. Still concerned that there might be someone over there. So the frame rate, the output onto the monitor, the number of times it refreshes, is less important really. Once you get over about 30, it's an indication of how smoothly the game is running. So I mean, I've played a great many hours doing first-person shooters, things like Medal of Honor, the originals, Counter-Strike, Day of Defeat, all of the fast reaction shooters. And frame rate is incredibly important, and your frame rate would be way higher than your monitor's refresh rate, so it wasn't what you were seeing that was important. I mean, Battlefield 3, my computer happily plays Battlefield 3 with the frame rate, obviously it is locked to 60 because that's the refresh rate of my monitor, but the frame rate of the sorry, I'm going to munch these. My computer's reporting back that my frame rate is 120 to 200. There's a 200 internal limit on Battlefield 3. I don't know if it still exists on Battlefield 4, because my computer's not powerful enough to be able to run Battlefield 4 on Ultra that high. I can play Battlefield 3 on Ultra, and a nice high frame rate, to the point where if the scene I'm looking at in Battlefield 3 is not overly complicated, it just sits in 200 frames per second. Now my monitor can't respond to 200 frames per second. It doesn't know what to do with 200 frames per second, because quite simply it is a 60 Hz monitor, so it's not going to update any faster than the 60 Hz it's capable of doing. But the smoothness of gameplay is definitely there. Sorry, I'm dodging a... Just remind myself how nasty zombies are. How quickly do they respawn in? I can't remember. So yes, the smoothness of gameplay over there, coming in. The smoothness of it, so frame rate is an indication of the smoothness of gameplay. The higher the frame rate, you know your computer is handling everything that you could be asking the game to do extremely well. So, but this game, along with the other previous Armour games and existing Armour games, can run at a lower frame rate. I'm amazed, you know, having played games where I wouldn't even consider playing them unless they were doing 90 to 100 frames per second. I'll happily play a Bohemia interactive game at 30 frames per second and think it's quite good. When this one drops to... yeah, I've dropped down to 22, 24 because of the rain and the complexity. And it's starting to get a little choppy. I know at 15 frames per second... Why won't it jump? At 15 frames per second, I think this is pretty much unplayable. Well, you can't fight zombies at 15 frames per second, that's for certain. You can run about at 15 frames per second, but you can't do anything. I was playing a couple of days ago. For whatever reason, server was running very, very slow, and I couldn't hatch it a zombie because frame rate was incredibly low. So yeah, frame rate is important, not only because we're talking about the visual fidelity of the game, we're talking about the speed the game is running on our computer, and therefore the fluidity of movement due to the lack of because the game is capable of responding to every precise movement of my mouse. Now, I think part of the way you can guess, you can sort of... Oh, I've picked up another zombie. Part of the way you can sort of get away with it on a... This site is a pain in the arse. Because my low frame rate, that was quite tricky. Yeah. Because you're using a controller, and controllers are not precise enough, even the nice DualShock ones. I mean, I've got quite a nice controller. It's a Razer one, 360 pad controller. And no, I cannot play first-person shooters with it. But it doesn't have the precision, anywhere near the precision of my mouse. I'm capable of making incredibly precise movements with my mouse that I cannot do with my controller. And all this business of you move it to the... Yeah. The mouse is incremental. I'm facing this way, and I'm not moving the mouse. I move the mouse physically, and it happens, and it stays where I put it. And I'm moving the mouse actually. This movement, left and right, that's about 1 millimetre of movement on my mouse. I'll probably have it set too high actually. If I turn the speed down, right, I'm going to move left and right, looking at. Yeah, that's about. I'm doing that merely by tensing the muscles in my thumb. Let's turn it back up again. I think I am being followed. I heard the cry of a zombie. Can't see it. So I think they can get away with some of these things because of the input lag. When you look around with an analog stick, if you move it as far as it will go to the right, what will happen is you'll start turning to the right, and then it'll just sit there like that and just work away. There is definitely a zombie around here somewhere. I just heard it a second time. Where are you? Oh, there you are. Not anymore, you're not. Let's double tap it away from here so that when he spawns back in, I'm not within his eyesight. Because he's been following me for a good 200 metres. So there's that. There's the other issue that... So, yeah, I don't know. If you're sat across a room at your TV and it's running at 30 frames per second, I think it's probably fine. But if it's running at 30 frames per second because that's all the machine is capable of outputting, in other words, the speed the game is running, the calculations being done every second within the game, is locked to your frame rate, then that's not good. You do not want a game running at 30 frames per second because it's jerky and nasty and horrid. If you output your game at 1 frame rate, but it's doing the calculations faster, then I think that's okay. So, for instance, when I'm playing Battlefield 3, my computer is running at 150 to 200 frames per second, or 120 to 200. If all hell's breaking loose in one of the really tight maps with lots of people, it'll drop to about 115, 120 frames per second. Well, my monitor can only do 60 hertz. Is only doing 60 hertz, so that's only 60 refreshes a second. Yeah. So my game is running faster than the monitor can output. So if you're telling me your console game outputs at 30 frames per second, but is actually running faster than 30 frames per second, that's okay. Yeah, frame rate is an indication of how fast the game itself is running, rather than this looks smoother than that, because this looks nice and smooth. I look from left, right, yeah, this is all happening nicely, and I'm running at about 40 frames per second. Oh, hello zombie. Oh shit, I've just put that away rather than pulled that out. Come on. Yes, yes, I hear you. Oh shit, the little bugger. What happened there? I'm pissing blood. Good grief, that's a long time since that's happened. Hinky character movement. I'm sure I put several bullets in him. Bastard. No longer bleeding. I do need a drink. If I can get my hydrator status back up to bright green. Actually, do I? Yeah, I'm carrying water. Oh shit, I've got something else to deal with now. Where is he? Oh, there he is. Okay, that was one hit. Let's get ourselves into this building, because this building has got height, and I don't think the zombies can climb yet in this particular build. So I've gone round and round the houses talking about frame rate and why it's important. As I say, I believe it's important because it gives you an indication of how well the game is running on your piece of equipment. Right, I believe the zombie won't attack me in here. See, I'm not healing yet, and that's because this isn't bright green. Did I not drink all? Do I not get the option to drink all? Strange. I thought maybe that's a difference between the two builds. I thought you had the option to drink all. Has that damaged anything? No, you're pristine. Pristine, pristine. So it didn't damage any of that. Pristine. What sort of zombies did your clothing? Ah, you see? Right, the second I got hydrated and bright green, healing turned up. Do you see how that worked? I'm now regaining my blood that was lost from that zombie attack. So, this is one of the reasons I like to keep energized bright green, I like to keep hydrated bright green, because you heal very quickly from any slight knock or tap. And now I've got to refill that. So, let's bring him back. 23 rounds left. I've burnt through some ammunition. Let's sort that little one out whilst I'm safe. View contents. Oh, you can't. Sometimes you can scroll, sometimes you can't, and this is one of the times you can't. 59, that's close enough. Right. And it's energized, hydrated, and healthy. That's why I stopped to have a drink. Do need to, or would like to refill that water container. And when it comes to frame rate in this particular game, very, very dependent on the server. But also there's a lot of optimization within the game client. It needs optimization, and also the servers need an awful lot of optimization. If we're ever going to get to where they were hoping, where there would be like 100 people on a server, hundreds upon thousands of zombies, and lots of loot, and lots of animals, the server's going to need an awful lot of work. Oh, it's the other side of that building, isn't it? Sorry, I'm remembering where the well is. Back in the mod, we used to come here a lot because there was nearly always a white pickup truck down that road. So, where we go... Come on. Sometimes you've got to be really quite deliberate with your actions. Keep your head around. Don't want to get zapped by a zombie. Saying about optimization and everything, yeah, hopefully this game, I'm looking forward to Dayz eventually being able to run as smooth as Arma 3, for instance, or at least as smooth as Arma 2 on this map. Because let's not forget, this map is incredibly detailed. It's very, very cluttered. Yeah? You simply aren't going to draw this many 3D objects this quickly, this easily, if you like. We are surrounded by many hundreds of 3D objects that all need to be drawn. So, if you compare this landscape with, say, the Takistan landscape, which is primarily desert, from Arma 2, or the more arid landscape from Arma 3, where there's less clutter on the ground and trees are less dominant. There are areas that are wooded, but there are also very large areas which are just scrubland. So that's one of the reasons why it runs so well. So yeah, there's lots of optimizations got to happen on the client side, but it's never going to run as well as Arma 3, partly because of the map. So there's optimizations there that's got to happen. There's the biggest optimizations, or the biggest, should we say, the low-hanging fruit, the one they can do the most work with most quickly, is the server. Because they make a couple of changes in the server and everybody's game runs more quickly. It'll come. We're in alpha. We're, you know, a few months into alpha. What's that? Bloody hell, where the hell did he come from? Let's get some distance. Was he following me all the time? Unbelievable. Little bugger was following me all the time while I was muttering along. I forgot how nasty the zombies were in this build. Because they really is unpleasant. Because another one will spawn in within a certain amount of time, within a few meters of where that one died. And they spawn in an aggroed state. In other words, actively looking for you. Ah, Gordon Bennett. Bloody zombies, eh? So, can you hear him? Let's get some more distance. This never-ending zombie killing, isn't it? With this, the way zombies are in this particular build, they don't do this in the experimental branch. It's not zombies are no bother, because they're still a bother, but they're not this much of a bother. Zombies in this particular build, current build, are a pain in the bum, because they're capable of following you, because they respawn so quickly. They're capable of following you for miles. I mean, we are a long way away from that last town. you would hope to be able to expect to run through the countryside without zombies. And hopefully we've broken contact. Very odd. Doesn't help I'm crossing an open field right now. And zombies have amazing eyesight. I personally don't think a zombie should be able to see more than about 50 meters. And as it stands at the moment, a zombie can latch onto you from over 150 meters away. I much preferred it in the mod where zombies were more interested in sound than they were in what they could see. Because I thought that was a very interesting mechanic within the mod, that you would crawl, well, sometimes crawl, but you would walk and crouch, keeping yourself low, and you can actually like navigate a path between loads of zombies by being really stealthy. And I sort of miss that, because as it stands now, it's not a case of being stealthy. You simply, they'll see you or they won't see you, and if they see you, you've got to respond. Where in the mod, you could predict which ones were going to see you and which ones weren't, and which ones are going to be a bother and which ones weren't. I mean, you could still get swamped. If you weren't careful, you could still end up with more zombies on you than you wanted. Screwdrivers and sticks. Is that? Oh, it's just funny coloured leaves. Still a good looking game. Don't care what anyone says. I still think this is one of the prettiest games when it comes to things like... I don't think anyone does nature as well as Bohemia Interactive. I don't know. I know with games what happens is you start playing a game and you think, well, that looks a bit funny, and then after a while your eyes become attuned, your brain becomes attuned to it, and you stop seeing the errors and only see the good bits. And I still stop sometimes and look at this game and think, God, it's a good looking game. This looks realistic. Yeah, don't know what it is. There is something about this game. It's pretty. Still don't like the amount of popping you get in the ground. If you look at the ground, you see those things on the ground, and they look okay. And as I run forward, their detail pops in. I sort of wish it didn't do that, because that does break the immersion. Having all these ground textures popping in about 2 meters in front of me as I run forward. There was a way with fill rate you could push that push it out ahead of you, because obviously if you go all the way out there, there's nothing. There's no ground textures at all. None of this 3D stuff. No plants like this. If you go right out there. What I don't like is the way they pop up in front of you. There's grass appearing as I run forward. At least we don't get the trees popping in and out. I've got my settings high enough for that not to happen now, which is good. Don't suffer from the Mr. Blobby trees. That's because, as I say, I've got my settings quite high at the moment. No sign of that zombie, is there? I think we've finally got rid of that zombie. And this, by the way, is why I like the hunter's backpack, or the huntsman's backpack, because I can look over my shoulder as I run. I know it sounds daft. If you've been playing thing, and you wonder how I do this, how I look around independently, still running forward, is you hold your thumb or you hold your finger on the Alt button as you run forward, and you've got your free roam to look. This is a feature that I miss tremendously when I'm playing other games, the ability to look around. I also own what's called a Track IR. I'm not using it at the moment because I find it's rather delicate, and I don't want it damaged. So the Track IR is I move my head around. Your head becomes a controller. So you move your head around and it moves your head in the game. It's excellent for flying. Pretty good for infantry. But I find it gets in the way a little bit with Dayz. I still prefer this, you know, looking around. So we found ourselves down to Zelena by the look of it. Just wait till I break out through the break out from the woods, and we'll have a look at Zelenogorsk. I love Zelenogorsk. There she is. Twice the town she is from the mod. Do I have a map? I can't remember. It's number 5. Do I have a map? Good grief, I don't have the whole map. I've got better map. Mind you, the maps are more plentiful in experimental. I've only got the top half of the map. That's no blooming good, is it? That's where we started. Hang on. Move in. No, hang on. Where is it? Is it actually? Yes, it is actually in the base. That's where we started. Tit Hill. Vernsnik. Yeah, I call it Tit Hill. Military compound. That's where we ran away and ran along this tree line. Or was it this one? No, yeah, we ran along there, didn't we? And down. Ran away like a little girl. Right. Military base. There's a hospital, you know, the little blue one, and a police station. It's all good stuff. But agricultural. And right there, there's a couple of rocks. Now, there used to be a whole pile of rocks there, and that's where I always used to have my base. I definitely have my detail settings a little bit higher, don't I? Let's have a little trot in. Should I have a trot in now, or shall I leave it? Do you know what? I think I'll leave it. I think this will be a slightly shorter video than the others. I'll sit in a bush, overlooking my hometown of Zelenogorsk, and I'll love you and leave you. With that beautiful vista in front of us, with a nice long view distance that our friends at Dayz and Bohemia Interactive have set for us, where we can see for blooming miles. Well, about 3 kilometres I think is the actual outer limit. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this little video, me muttering and chuntering on about FPS and stuff. I hope I made my point. I probably didn't. I was rambling on, going round and round in circles, like normal, I suppose. I'll love you and leave you. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I will talk to you lovely ladies and gentlemen later. Bye-bye.